Okay, welcome to another episode of the Intrepid Global Citizen podcast. We have a very good friend and a guest joining us today. His name is Valentin, and I met him a few months ago in Saudi Arabia. So we have an interesting story there. We met in Jeddah, and we were both cycling. I was on my trip in Saudi Arabia for about 5 weeks, and he is on his world cycling adventure at the moment, and he's joining us all the way from Namibia. So welcome. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it feels like it was a very long time ago when we met in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. It was in February, so 4.5 months ago, something like that, because now it's the 4th of July. And it's actually, so Jeddah was a very special place because it was the end of the first part of my trip. Because I started cycling on the 1st of March, 2023, and exactly 1 year later, I left Jeddah in Saudi Arabia for Africa, and I started cycling across Africa in the beginning of March this year.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe we can start just from the beginning. So maybe you can tell us like what led up to this big trip. Like what was your life like before you started doing this big cycling adventure, and how did you decide to do this?
Yeah, sure. Oh, it's a very long story. I've always loved traveling, and I had a childhood dream that came true in 2017 when I traveled the Trans-Siberian Railway through Russia, Mongolia, and China. It was such an amazing, fantastic journey that I really just can recommend for everybody because it was fantastic, amazing. A completely different world opened up for me. And the thing was that for the first time in my life, I really had a feeling when I arrived back in Sweden that I just wanted to keep on traveling. I really didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to go back to the office, but I didn't know how to do it. I only knew that I wanted to travel for a very long time and very far away. I neither had the time nor the money. And a couple of months later, I read an article about a Swedish woman who then in the beginning of 2018, so now we are in January 2018, she came back from her around the world cycling journey. She biked around the world during 3 years. Fredrika Ek, she's a great name. A lot of cyclists know her. And even though I didn't have any experience with cycling, and actually, if I have a problem with my bicycle, I don't trust myself so much fixing it. So I'm still not a bicycle nerd, but I still got this intuitive idea, this intuition. Okay, so is it possible? Can you really bike around the world? Has anybody ever done it? So I just started reading about this stuff, what kind of gear, equipment you need, what route you can take. So I just was very curious, and then I started learning about this topic. So it was 2018. Then so I asked one of my friends, an Australian friend of mine who is living in Sweden, would you like to bike around the world with me? Because I really want to do it. I just don't want to do it alone. So in the summer of 2019, we biked across Sweden. We just wanted to warm up, and we wanted to see if it is really something for us. Actually, if you ask me now I have biked almost 20,000 kilometers. It's 19,600 something from Sweden to Namibia. And if you ask me what the toughest cycling trip in my life was, I say it was when I biked across Sweden, because we had too little time. We underestimated the geography of Sweden. It's a very long country. And 4 weeks are enough if you're in a very good shape, if you have a very good condition, and if you just want to be sitting on the saddle and bike. But that's not my thing. But that's what I'm actually doing now in Botswana and Namibia. But I will tell you about it later why. then in February 2020, we still wanted to give it a try, and we started cycling around the world. So we took the ferry from Sweden to Estonia. We biked across the Baltics, Kaliningrad, Russia, Poland, and the very last evening, while the borders still were open, we slipped into Ukraine, where we were trapped because of COVID. That's when COVID started in March 2020. I mean, the restrictions and the border closures. Then we spent some time in Ukraine, and we had to fly back to Sweden because COVID. So we were hoping for that COVID would end in a couple of weeks, but we turned out to be too naive. So it was like 4 years ago. He is not so interested in cycling anymore. And I actually realized that I prefer cycling by myself. Sometimes I'm missing a cycling mate. I really love mixing with people. I'm a pretty social person, but most of the time you're actually sitting in the saddle, you're riding your bicycle, and when you do it completely alone, you can do everything in your own pace, and you really don't need to adapt to anybody else. And I think this is much more my style. So I really enjoy riding my bike by myself. And I often get the question, of course, and I also wondered how these people can afford it. I sold my apartment in Sweden. I don't have anything. Everything I own is my bicycle, my equipment, and I just started riding that bicycle again, the same bike, the Surly long haul trucker. On the 1st of March 2023, I took the ferry from Sweden to Germany. Then I've been cycling across Central Europe, the Balkans, Turkey, Georgia, Armenia, Iran. From Iran, I took the ferry to the United Arab Emirates. Then I went to Oman, Saudi Arabia. That's where we met. So this first part of the trip took, as said, 1 year. Then actually, I in the beginning, during the first year, I didn't have a very exact route because I'm very adaptable depending on the seasons, on the weather conditions, because there are people who are cycling in Iran like now in, I don't know, July, August, when it's like 45, 50 degrees. I really didn't want to do it. And I'm also a bit slow, so I really enjoy taking my time, sometimes have a break for 3-4 days, maybe 1 week. So that's why I visited Iran in October, November last year, the very best part of the year to visit that country. Not too hot anymore. It's not too chilly yet. So it's really nice. And also Saudi, of course. And originally, I was thinking of going to Central Asia, to the Stan countries after Iran. But there were several reasons why I didn't go there. First of all, I didn't go there because of the season, because of the weather. I would have come to Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan in November, December, and it's kind of late. It's really, really cold in the Pamirs during winter time. And also when I started cycling, so even 1 year ago, a lot of borders in that part of the world were closed. Kyrgyzstan and Tajikistan had a border conflict, and it was still hard to get the transit visa for Turkmenistan. And when I started my journey 1 year and 4 months ago, China was completely closed. Tourist visas were not issued at all because of COVID, but now actually because I'm a Hungarian citizen, I can visit China visa-free. So it's been quite a change. So it's quite a change compared to how it was like 1.5, 2 years ago. So that's why I went to the Gulf countries. And it was a perfect choice because you definitely should visit those countries in the winter months, like December, January, February. And I didn't know so much about Africa. I was like, Africa is always hot, so I can go there anytime. It's not completely true. So I started cycling from Kenya after having done some safari, of course, in the beginning of March. And I was completely surprised when somebody told me that so the rainy season will start soon in a couple of weeks in the end of March. And as a, excuse me, I thought that the rainy season is kind of in September, October, November. And he said that's the second rainy season, the minor rainy season. There's a major rainy season in April, May, when it's raining a lot. Aha. I wasn't prepared for that, but I was like, okay, I take it as it comes. So if it will be raining, it will be raining. I actually was very lucky because most of the time it was raining during the night, and sometimes you even could see, you could predict when the big rain, so that really crazily pouring rain would come. And I just went into a restaurant and I was sitting there and waited until the rain just drifted by. And it was like that in Uganda, Rwanda, and in the north of Tanzania. I remember that I was trapped in a hotel for, I don't know, 5 nights in Tabora, in the center of Tanzania, because it was just crazily raining for a lot of hours, for many hours every day. And I was like, okay, I'm sure that the hotel manager dances the rain dance every night just in order to keep me here. But it was in the end of April, and after that, it's been completely sunny, been very nice. Yeah, Africa. I must tell you, as said, I'm a very social and talkative. I think I'm a pretty warm-hearted person, so I really need people. I don't like solitude so much, and that's why I had kind of tough period in December, November, December, January, when I was in Dubai, Oman. Even though I met some really nice people, so many months in the desert, in those remote countries, I know I didn't like it. I actually even, I started eating too much sugar. I even gained weight, believe it or not. I gained weight while I'm cycling around the world.
It's a lot of bread, right? A lot of bread.
It was also a very funny story because a lot of carbohydrates, and people are very hospitable, and they just gave me a lot of food, and most of the time it's actually pretty unhealthy food, and a lot of tea with a lot of sugar in it, and chocolate and Coke, and I just realized that, oh my God, why am I so wrong? But okay, so I'm serious. I really looked, I don't know, I think I was like I weighed 15 kilograms more than now, so you can see it in my face. I always show people the picture from January in the UAE, and after that I arrived in Riyadh, the capital of Saudi Arabia, and I had a host, and I stayed at his place for 7 days, and I was like, okay, now I have to lose weight because it's just unsustainable. I don't want to look like this. I actually think that it was a vicious circle, that I ate a lot, and I was drinking a lot of Coke and these very unhealthy drinks, and I was eating a lot of unhealthy food because I felt bad, and because I got fat, I also felt bad. Not only mentally, that, oh my God, how do I look? No, it also impacted my performance on the bicycle, that I got tired much quicker. So I spent 7 days or 1 week at that guy's place in Riyadh, and I was kind of starving. I only ate apples and oranges, and I was drinking a lot of water and black tea, and every evening I was running 10 kilometers in the park nearby.
Oh, wow.
And after 1 week, and it's just discipline. It actually, it was hard, but it wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And after 1 week, the morning when I would be leaving, he looked at me in the kitchen and said, "You look differently." I said, yes, I really hope so, because that day I had lost. So that week I lost 7 kilograms. So I was
Wow.
very happy about it. And this is the craziest thing that has actually happened to me on this journey, that you just gain weight. And
Yeah.
why I am talking about this mental part, and how, yeah, I can tell you honestly that I felt depressed, and now I know my own boundaries. But the very day when I arrived in Kenya, in Nairobi, everything, all this depression, all these weird negative feelings were gone, completely
Wow.
gone. You know why? Because it was green. It was, I know, there were a lot of people, civilization, and I, I just had the feeling, okay, finally, I see something completely different, because, um, yeah, Iran and the Gulf countries are really nice. I'm very happy that I visited those fantastic, amazing countries. But those countries are pretty similar to each other, and I love those cultures. But after like 5 months, you really want to see something different.
Yeah.
um, so I arrived in Kenya. I had a host in Nairobi. We were cycling around in Nairobi, and somehow I felt like I was a completely new person. And it was also the beginning of the second year of my trip. And uh, it was a very tough cycling in that part of Africa. Well, entire Africa is a very tough cycling, to be honest. So I couldn't tell you an easy country to
Yeah.
bike across in Africa,
Sure.
because, because Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda are very hot. These countries are very close to the equator, or the equator is crossing them.
Sure.
And the sun somehow burns you in a completely different way that I had never experienced before, even though it wasn't that extremely hot. But it felt like the sun was closer to me than in Europe. I don't
Sure.
know, it might be an explanation. I don't know that. And it was also humid, and very hilly, very mountainous, very hilly. So I didn't have a single easy day in those countries. Also,
Wow.
not in Tanzania either. It got a bit easier because it wasn't that humid anymore, and the rainy season was over. And I
Okay.
remember when the rainy season was over, and I was like, okay, now it will be sunny every day. Uh, I remember that. Oh my God, it was such a crazy day, because there was a stretch, a 130-kilometer long stretch, where there was no civilization at all, nothing, zero.
Wow.
And it was a game reserve.
In
And I
Tanzania,
think I
yeah.
sent you one of those pictures with the big sign, yeah,
Oh yeah, yeah, I
along
see
the
that.
road, that
Sure.
be aware of dangerous wild animals.
Oh
And there were
yeah,
really
yeah.
also lions and hyenas and hippos roaming around. But
Okay. Do you remember the name of that reserve
sorry, I
by
didn't hear
chance?
what you said.
Oh, do you remember the name of that reserve in
Yeah,
Tanzania?
okay.
What's the name? Do you
Uh,
remember?
so, So let me see. I don't remember the name of the reserve, but it
Okay.
was between. So when you leave Tabora to the south, you go.
Okay.
So you bike like 90 kilometers to the south from Tabora. It's a major city in Tanzania. Everybody knows. If you
Okay.
have been to Tanzania, you know where it is. You go to the south 90 kilometers, and you arrive in a small village that's called Ipole.
Okay.
Ipole, and from there, oh yeah, and I can tell you why I had to cross that game reserve, because I originally wanted to go straight to the south to Malawi,
Okay.
but that road that went straight to the south was a very long dirt road, very bumpy. So the tarmac just ended in Ipole, and it it was like it was also very remote, no civilization for like 130 or 140 kilometers, and I don't think I could have made it during one day, and I definitely don't want to wild camp at night. Among the lions, because people told me during the day I should be fine, and I've never seen a lion daytime. So I've never seen a lion besides when I did some safari in Kenya. So no dangerous animals at all,
Okay.
really. So that's why I went from Ipole to the west. So I did a detour towards Lake Tanganyika. I didn't reach Lake Tanganyika. I just went to that direction to Panda. That's the name of the city. And from there, I met a German cyclist there whom I biked with before.
Oh,
And then we crossed one more national park.
you met him by
That
chance? Did you see
where
him
it was
somewhere else by chance?
where we had a ranger. We were escorted by a ranger because it was highly recommended. Because
Oh,
I don't know, we spotted like 2 elephants maybe.
uh-huh.
I don't know, but other actually on that part, across that smaller national park, a lot of other cyclists reported that they really saw lions.
Wow.
A few lions during the day while they were cycling there. Or no, I think that sorry, I was mistaken. A lot of people were hitchhiking there. So across that other national park, it's a Katavi National Park in that
Okay.
part of Tanzania. Or you can take a bus. And my thinking was, I prefer doing a detour, or I prefer paying extra money for the ranger to be escorted, because I didn't come to Africa to take the bus. I don't want to take
Yeah,
the shuttle. I want to see
sure.
Africa. I want to buy as much as I can. Uh, so we made it together through the national park, and after that,
So,
unfortunately, we had to split up because his bicycle broke, um, and he had to fix it, somewhere else.
so did
So we
you?
preferred to split up, and that's when, not because we split up, we were very sad that we had to split up, but uh, I kept on cycling on a dirt road, gravel road. Sometimes it was tolerable, sometimes it was extremely bad. So sometimes really had to push the bike. Sometimes it was sandy. So I was cycling like 3-4 days on a dirt road along a lake that I don't remember. It's like to the directly after Katav National Park.
Okay. Okay. You're
Okay,
back.
let's
It's all
see.
right.
Interrupted.
So,
Okay, is
oh
it
yeah,
all
it's all
right? Is
right.
it still recording?
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
right. I have a
Okay.
question though. So you had the ranger going through that game reserve. Were you on your bike at that time, or was the ranger, did he take you in a car, or was he escorting you,
Okay.
like driving behind you in a car, or how did that work exactly?
So yeah, so we are talking about the second national park. The first national park, this very big one, the 130 kilometers.
Oh
I
wow.
had no escort at all. I was completely alone. But the second national park, the Katavi National Park, we were cycling. So we were cycling, so like 70 kilometers, I think. And the
Okay.
ranger and the driver were following us in a car. So the
Oh,
driver
okay.
was driving the car, obviously, and the ranger was sitting next to him with a big rifle, just in case. I don't
Oh
know.
my
In
gosh.
the worst case scenario, um, I I've actually heard from local people that lions are not so likely to attack humans. So just because a lion sees you, it doesn't mean that you should be very afraid that that now you will be killed. Uh,
Uh-huh.
Most likely, if a lion just sees you, it will not attack you. That's what I've heard. I don't know. Hippos. So they say that hippos are the most dangerous animals in Africa. That's what I've heard. Um, yeah, so we saw like 2 elephants maybe, and we just stopped the car, and they said, "Yeah, stay." So the car was staying between us and the elephant, and we were standing there for like 10 minutes until the elephant just disappeared in the bush. That's it.
Okay.
Um, yeah,
Because elephants
and
too
after
can
that,
be very aggressive, right? I mean, elephants, they say, can be dangerous and can attack people at times. I've heard some scary elephant stories.
actually, it happened like 2 weeks ago. in Zambia went too close to the elephants and she was killed. I think that the elephant just stepped on that poor woman.
Oh,
So I don't know. I don't know. I don't know so much about the animal's behavior, but I think that most of the time, if you just leave those animals alone, if you don't go too close to those animals, you're fine, and they are fine. So for example, in Botswana, where I was cycling for 2 weeks, there was a stretch that is known for a lot of wild animals that you're guaranteed to see, like elephants, a lot of elephants, and sometimes when they saw me, they were just scared and they ran into the bush. When I saw an elephant with its baby, then I took it very seriously. I just stopped and I was waiting, and they disappeared. Yeah, they just walked into the bush after like 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, and yeah, I just don't want to confuse the people who are listening to us, because I started talking about this so many topics at the same time. So we were in Tanzania on the dirt
oh
road.
yeah, sure,
So
yeah.
I prefer talking about the countries chronologically. Yeah, chronologically. Yeah.
Okay, sure.
So in Tanzania, after we split up,
Hmm.
I kept on cycling on this dirt road, and it was a tough cycling, but I can tell you, those might have been the best days during my Africa cycling trip, because
Yeah,
I ended up in those small villages where there are sometimes no real roads, because we had to cross a river. So it was no real road, just, I don't know, a river where I really had to leave the bicycle and carry everything over the water. Then I ended up in a small village, in small villages where people had never seen a white person, and
really?
I was the first one. And you cannot imagine that attention that I got. And people were very friendly, curious. Sometimes to me, it was really weird how openly they showed their curiosity and affection. It was like this, oh my God, a white man, a white man. It's like as if I was from a completely different planet. And uh, so when somebody spoke English, I just explained to those people, I'm very happy to be here. It's a great, fantastic experience to me, of course, and I guess it's also a great day as a great experience, exciting experience for you too. But at the same time, you know, there is one difference between us. I'm white and you guys are black. That's it. So I'm also a human, and I came to Africa because I'm very open-minded. I'm very curious of those fellow humans who are living here, and I want to know more about your culture. And I think that the best way to do is to leave the tarmac road, uh, the main road, and to just come to these small villages. And you know, it is so kind and so funny and so genuine people, and that it really made me happy though to encounter, to meet those people. But not only there, actually almost every day. So sometimes I've met, you know, weird people, not only in Africa, everywhere in Europe, in the Middle East, in Turkey. But somehow, when you ask me what, so if anything very bad has happened to me, I really have to think about it, because
Yeah.
I kind of just feel, I guess there's a filter in my brain that just forgets these very bad things. For example, Uganda. Oh, I didn't
Okay.
tell you so much about Uganda.
Oh yeah, tell us about
I had
Uganda.
some really great couch surfing. Oh, sorry, I wanted to be I wanted to talk about my journey chronologically. Now
Oh,
I'm
it's
lying.
okay. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Uh,
So you crossed over from
so
Kenya
Uganda,
to Uganda, right? That was
exactly, to the
your
west,
route.
Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda,
Okay.
Tanzania, and then from there to Malawi. So
Okay.
Uganda.
Okay.
So as I'm just mentioning Uganda as an example,
Sure.
because I was talking about this weird people and negative experiences that uh, If you ask me about Uganda now, I say I really loved Uganda because of the social experience. I had some really amazing couch surfing hosts, very, very nice people. And it was also very eye-opening because I've never in my life seen so deep and inhuman poverty as
Oh,
in
wow.
Uganda.
Really?
It was just I just wasn't able to believe that there are people who are living like that. And I had also a couch surfing host who had a charity organization for disabled children.
Okay.
And you can imagine what they get from the Ugandan government, nothing, zero, nothing. And they, so practically almost all the time, not all the time, but very often he begged for money for some contribution. And yeah, I wasn't able to give him so much, but at the same time, I completely understand him because they really are not supported by anybody in this world. And
Sure.
what can you? It's and sometimes people really try to take advantage of me, especially in Uganda, Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda was extreme. It was really extreme, but somehow
Oh,
I
wow.
don't. So now I don't recall those memories so as extremely bad. It's
Yeah, sure.
like kind of funny. Okay, it happened to me. It was really inconvenient, but I think that those people who are living there in that poverty, it's much worse for them. Yeah,
Yes.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
for example, in Uganda, I was cycling on Sese Island. It's an island in Lake Victoria, and it's a pretty bumpy dirt road. And my small bicycle computer slipped out of my handlebar bag, and I
Okay.
noticed it after 2 or 3 kilometers. Oh my God, I lost my bike computer with all the data. So I turned back uh, and I didn't find it. And I was about to give it up. Ah, okay, so I have lost all information about my journey forever.
Okay.
When a woman appeared on a motorbike with my bike computer in her hand.
Wow.
And yeah, she found it apparently,
Okay.
and she refused giving it back to me unless I would pay. So she asked
Oh.
for my result. She was doing like this. Huh, okay. So buy computer. So how much is it worth to you? It's like, bitch, as a okay, yeah, I know that you're doing this because your children are hungry or I don't know what. I'm very sorry for
Yeah.
that, as I really can. So sometimes you just have to stop understanding everybody's situation. Sometimes I really gave them money. Sometimes I treated them with food. Actually, and of course I paid for that money. So I paid that money for the bike computer because I really needed it.
Okay.
I had another couch surfing host, likewise in Uganda, and he was also running a charity organization for very poor, disadvantaged children. And we visited a family where there was a little boy, like 8-year-old boy, who wasn't able to talk and walk. And the family needed a wheelchair very badly, but they couldn't afford. So I started fundraising on Facebook, and I just
Oh,
told my followers that yeah, I'm in Uganda, I'm cycling here, and I met this guy. So here is the evidence that if that this little child really needs the wheelchair. Um, so it's for real, kind of, because so you can
yeah.
start a fundraising, but you must make people believe that the money really goes to the right person. And within 24 hours, I had the money, and I
Wow.
transferred the money to the guy who runs the charity organization. And a couple of days later, I received the video and the pictures that the boy is sitting in the wheelchair now.
Oh,
So
okay. Good. Good.
it wasn't so much. So yeah, so I helped that poor little child. I wish I could help everybody, but unfortunately, I'm not Elon Musk. So
Of course. Yeah.
um,
Wow. Wow.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, in Rwanda, but so right now, as said, when I'm talking about Uganda, I just remember the other the couch surfing host. I had a really nice, such Derek. So that guy was like maybe the best host in my life in couch surfing. I
Wow.
really liked him. He was so funny. So his humor, his everything, and also Kabbalah. It's like nothing special is there. It's a town close to the Rwandan border, and from there, you can go to the impenetrable jungle to see the gorillas.
Oh, in Uganda, yeah.
If you pay,
Wow.
it's in Uganda exactly,
Okay.
and origin. So these travel agencies actually do these trips from Kampala, the capital of Uganda.
Sure.
They drive you to this impenetrable jungle. That's the name of it, Impenetrable National Park, I guess.
Okay.
But I said, oh, I'll bike to Kabale, so I prefer being picked up there. So can you guys just drive me from Kabale to the national park, like, I don't know, 50 kilometers, something like that?
Yeah.
And then it was also pretty risky because I was there in the beginning of April, so it was the peak of the rainy season.
Okay.
So, and I went to that impenetrable jungle stands for its name. It's really impenetrable. It's the way you see it in the Indiana Jones movies. So we really needed a machete and the rangers. It was almost impossible to walk around there.
Wow.
So I went there. It was the low season, and I was the only person in the lodge. And the next morning they drove me to the national park, and I met an American couple. So there were 3 of us, and that's it.
Okay.
But we were very lucky because it was sunny, so it was really nice weather. And they said that. So now in the rainy season, because of the lower temperatures, the gorillas are on lower altitudes. So you guys don't need to walk so much so up the mountain to find the gorillas.
Okay.
Because in the dry season, like now, they are on a much higher altitude.
Okay.
So we were walking for like 45 minutes, and we saw the gorillas. And it was so, I don't know, impressing. So really funny to see that they were scratching their heads the same way the humans are doing it. And it was like, oh my God, they are really moving and looking at each other, and they're hugging each other as humans are doing. It was crazy. I really liked it. It was definitely worth to see. It's such a genuine, nice, amazing experience. Yeah. Then I biked. Actually, that's where I met the German guy Jan. For the first time. So we biked together to Rwanda.
Okay.
Rwanda is called the country of thousand hills.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
It's a very hilly country, but I actually didn't find it. I didn't find it hillier than Uganda. So it's hilly, it's crazy, but Uganda was also crazy.
Okay.
What I really liked with Rwanda was that they don't have the speed bumps. So in Uganda, sometimes when you roll down the hill and you have those huge humps, it's like, oh my God! Sometimes I hope that my bicycle survives
to watch
it.
your
But in Rwanda,
spokes.
I really hate those humps. I think that the worst things in Africa, in certain countries like in Rwanda, especially Uganda, sorry, those humps, they were very, very bad. If you ask me, which country has the best roads in the world, the smoothest roads, and which country is the cleanest in the world, that I say Rwanda. It's just crazy, complete, so clinically clean, and the roads are. It's like a dream to bike there. It was fantastic, and as said, we were there in April because we crossed the border in the beginning of April, and it was also the 30th anniversary of the beginning of the genocide in Rwanda. So it was a very special. There's a very special days when we arrived in Kigali, the capital of Rwanda. They had memorial days, yes, and we visited the museum, the genocide museum as well. This is when you arrive in that country, you just cannot imagine that something like that happened there 30 years ago, because everything looks so perfect and nice and clean. But this is something that, yeah, if you just think back, this is human history, that so terrible things have happened in so many countries. And so just because you can see it as a tourist, it does, and you really must talk to the people. So it's a much deeper thing that you kind of have to understand. For example, it's still a taboo, so people don't talk about it. So when it was a memorial of war, no. So if you have a private conversation with somebody, you don't initiate that topic.
Really?
That's what they told us. That's what they told us. So that's what I heard in Rwanda. Of course, when it was the memorial month, it was kind of memorial in April, because I think that the genocide started on the 7th of April, 94, something like that. Yes, if I remember correctly. And yeah, so this is also part of our history and so really openly, I'm very happy that because somehow in Europe we know about the Rwandan genocide, but I don't know, we don't talk about it so much. And when we were there, and I, for example, mentioned that movie Hotel Rwanda, that was about this 3-month genocide in Rwanda. So the local people and guide at the museum told us it wasn't exactly like that. So it's like a Western way to show it. That this is how I understood it. So if somebody is listening to this podcast, or if I say something wrong, so please just correct me, or I apologize if I
go ahead.
something. But so because now we are talking about a thing that I don't want to be. So I'm not an expert. I'm not an expert on this, but. Generally speaking, so it's not only about Rwanda, it's also about, for example, Iran. You cannot have your own opinion about a country, about a culture, unless you have met its people. Unless you have gone there, you must understand. The most misunderstood country in the world is, I guess, it's Iran, because it's completely different from how a lot of people imagine it. And that's why I always say, so what your government tells you, what you hear on the news, okay, it's one thing, but the truth is somehow somewhere in the middle of the news and the politics and what other people tell you. You really must go there. And if you're cycling, and a lot of people ask me, by the way, all around the world, why I am cycling, why I don't drive a car or something like that. And my answer is always, otherwise I wouldn't be here talking to you. We are talking here, and I see your culture, and I see those remote small Tanzanian villages where they had never seen a white person, because I am here by bicycle. And that's why so many people invited me to their homes in Iran, because there's a European cyclist over there, so nobody thinks that I'm a bad person. So yeah, even though you're driving a car, I don't think that they think that you're a bad person, that you have bad intentions. I just mean that if you're a cyclist, people think that, this guy has a story. Where are you from? I really want to know you. And you really have to visit those countries. You have to meet a lot of different people, and Iranians, just like Swedes, Hungarians, Americans, everybody in the world, everybody has different personalities. So everybody has his own opinion on politics or history, on life, on values. And many times, for example, in Iran, sometimes I had a feeling that I'm in Europe or in a Western country. And I actually don't like saying this because just because they had those, in my opinion, very modern views, it doesn't automatically mean that, this is a European thing. Why? It's not only the Europeans or the Westerners who can think like that. So, as apparently in Iran, there are also a lot of people who actually don't want to get married, or they don't think that it's so important to get married, or because I think in the Western world, it gets more and more normalized, socially accepted that, okay, that you simply just ask the question, do you want to have children? And here in Africa, a lot of people just don't understand, how come you don't have children? It's natural that everybody has children, but there are still people who don't think like that anymore. So, it's not only we, so Europeans and Americans who think like that. So as said, it's very diverse. So it's not necessarily, so it's not black and white. That's what I mean. And by the way, so I would like to mention a few things about my background as well. So I am Hungarian. I am not Swedish. I was born and raised in Hungary. I used to live 12 years in Sweden. And I think that this fact made me this fact is enriching my life. So it has made me a rich person emotionally, mentally, because I don't think that the cultural differences are so huge between Sweden and Hungary. So, it's still Europe, so it's not so very big, but still, there are prejudices against Hungarians in Sweden and also against Sweden in Hungary. And who has lived in both countries for many years, I really know that, as said, the truth is somewhere in the middle. So it's not necessarily like that. Be always critical and question the news, question the politicians. And if you really want to know the truth, it takes time. You need to sit down with those people in their countries to understand the Iranians or the Turks or the Africans or anybody. You really must visit their countries. And I think the best way to do it is by bicycle. And then you will learn out that it's not necessarily as dangerous or as bad or as black and white as you think. Because I remember a lot of, it was also such a funny story. A lot of people warned me for Africa. Don't go to Africa. They will steal your bike. They will eat you up. I don't know what. And how many countries are there in Africa? 40 something. I said, there are a lot of countries in Africa. And I was like, okay, where? So I know that Sudan is dangerous now, or Chad or Mali, but only certain parts of those countries as well, actually. And I'm in Kenya, Tanzania, ridiculously safe. Just be street smart. Of course, you don't leave your cell phone in the street. You cannot do it you cannot do it anywhere in the world. And people are just people. So in the end of the day, we actually need the same thing. We want to eat, we want to drink, we want to have fun, we want to have a job, and we want to sleep at night. And nobody has ever wanted to harm me during these almost 20,000 kilometers. And I remember when I still was in Greece, people told me that, Greece is all right, but if you go to Turkey, be very careful because it's a completely different country. They are very, very conservative, very religious. Okay. I arrived in Turkey. In Western Turkey, people told me the same thing about Eastern Turkey, that Western Turkey is okay. Istanbul is fine. But Eastern Turkey, way too religious. And I was like, yeah, so what? Okay, so I am not a very religious person and they are. So what does it mean? So why is it wrong? And then I arrived in Eastern Turkey, invited from the street by a couple, and I actually ended up staying at their place for 3 nights. And so okay, I was like, okay, so I'm in Turkey. And I remember after 5 minutes, the man told me, I'm a communist. And his wife told me, I hate hijab. So, okay, so much for religious fanaticism. So, my country is okay, but the neighbor is dangerous. But when I told them that I'm going to Iran, they warned me, no, 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 don't go to Iran. It's war in Iran. I said, really? I didn't know about that. No, it's no war in Iran. So,
Really?
and when I was in Iran, people told me that don't go to Saudi Arabia, it's too hot. But I'm going there in January. It's always too hot. I said, no, in the winter, it's not too hot. It's always 50 degrees. No, really not. So I went to Saudi. And here in Africa, how should I say it? Yeah, so these countries are also different, of course. For example, in Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda, you often can see armed security guards, like soldiers. So if you stop at a completely random petrol station or you go to the supermarket, there's a guy with a big gun, with a rifle in his hand. And there are people who are scared by such armed security guards. But I actually wasn't, because I was like, okay, so if I leave my bicycle here outside the supermarket, I think that my bicycle will never be at a safer place than this. So this is the safest spot in the world. Nobody will hurt that bicycle.
Right.
Tanzania, yeah. In Tanzania, you cannot see it anymore. A lot of Tanzanians are kind of so they told me very proudly, we don't have these guns, we don't have these weapons. We are way too peaceful to have such security guards. Yeah, I guess that there are different reasons for having armed security guards in certain countries. So yeah, peaceful. Actually, Ugandan people were also peaceful, and Rwandan and Kenyan people as well. So I think they just meant that they don't have the armed guards, and the other countries just do. That's it. But really, I don't know. Sometimes when I see something like that, like somebody with a huge gun, or when I saw a venomous snake on the road, I just kind of cannot understand it. I just don't feel that it's weird, because this is so strange to me. This is nothing that I had seen before.
Yeah.
Because as a European, so how often do you see such a person with a big weapon, or how often do you see a venomous snake so 1 meter in front of you? It's no, it's like, I don't know. My brain just was turned off. Yeah. Okay. I was talking about Tanzania.
Yeah. Maybe you can tell us about Rwanda. Exactly. I think we left off at Rwanda. And you can tell us about maybe. Okay. So you were talking about Hotel Rwanda also, and how it's different, and how it's such a clean country and great for cycling with perfect roads. So I wonder, like, I mean, there was a genocide there 30 years ago. So, I mean, how did it transform in such a fast time to such a clean place with perfect roads? I mean, did people talk about that when you were there? That's really interesting.
Yeah, I don't know so much. So my impression was, and as said, I'm not an expert. I don't know so much about this
tragical, just on your observation.
About the tragical 3 months. So my impression was that the Rwandan people who survived this genocide, they kind of, I don't know, stick together. They just build up the country after those after that time so after 1994, and they also got a lot of support from other countries, and they have been building up a country that suffered a lot before, and they really appreciate what they have. And we could also do the same thing, but I don't know, in other countries. Just another example why it is so clean. I don't know why it is so clean. They have really, really harsh laws that, like, if you just throw plastic bag away, you get fined, or if you, I don't know, if you dump a lot of trash somewhere, you can end up in jail for I don't know how many days. So it's really, really strict. And by the way, also Kenya also has prohibited plastic bags. So you are not allowed. I think that you're not allowed to enter Kenya, not even by air, if you have a plastic bag in your bag. So you have to throw it away before. Otherwise, you can be fined. And they also have a lot of renewable energy, like water and sunshine. And that's why climate change is much more. I'm not an expert again,
Sure.
but my impression was that this is also one of the many reasons why climate change is much more obvious here in Africa. Because a very good example, Zambia. In Zambia, they had really long power outages. So, like for 12 hours, no power, no electricity at all in the I don't know, in half of the country, or I don't know, 30% of the country, because they just, okay, now we will turn off the electricity for 12 hours in this part of the country so that the other part of the country can have electricity, because the rainy season, even though it was rainy, but it used to be much rainier before. It's drought here. So they say that they've just faced the worst drought for 30 years. It's never been that bad for 30 years. So they don't have enough water. It hasn't rained enough. And they are generating electricity with help of water, the rainwater. And that's what they don't have. Yeah. So call it climate change, call it I don't know what. It's really bad. And it was, to me, it was like, how should I say it, a very special African experience while I was sitting next to my couch surfing host in the completely dark apartment at 8 p.m. because we were not able to turn on the lights. And
Sure.
so we just, I don't know, we lit a candle or we just used our cell phones, and that was the way we talked to each other. And to me, it was like, okay, I'm just cycling across these countries, but it was the situation was, by the way, similar in Malawi and in Tanzania, but the outages didn't last for so long, like 2, 3, 4 hours, something like that. But Zambia was really, really bad. And to me, I was comforting myself by telling myself, okay, I'm here because I want to be here, and I can survive this, but there are people living here their entire lives and they don't have electricity for 12 hours almost every day. So I am very happy that I actually anytime can go to another country where they have electricity, and everything else I just wish for. Yeah, exactly. So Rwanda, yeah, and Rwanda was also
so Rwanda, no power outages.
It was really
I would
extreme.
assume, right?
No,
I'm
in
sure
Rwanda,
electricity was not an issue in
not
Rwanda since
what I
it's
remember.
so
I
organized.
don't remember.
Okay. But do you
No,
think
okay,
that Rwanda is so kind of advanced like this and clean with good facilities and everything? Do you think it's because the politicians, maybe they are not corrupt there because of the horrible genocide? We always hear of Africa being corrupt, all these places, politicians using tax money and stealing. And does that cease to exist in Rwanda because of the genocide, I wonder? And they have maybe a higher calling. They think, oh, we really need to rebuild the country because of this horrible thing that happened. I wonder if that just fits into the national psyche, including politicians. I mean, what do you think about that?
So people, I only can tell you what I've heard from people. So this is actually not my opinion. This is just something that I will tell you. So I will tell you something that I have heard. So this is nothing I have made up.
Right.
Some people in Rwanda told me that the government is, it's also a corrupt government. That's what they told me. So it's not like, I don't know, just a small paradise where everything is perfect. And actually, something that was very annoying in Rwanda was the begging, very aggressively. They are begging a lot in Kenya and Uganda as well. Also Malawi maybe and Zambia, but in Rwanda it was extreme. They
Oh,
are never so they are, how should I say it? They are annoying, but they really don't hurt you. They never touch you. They never touch your bike. They are really just standing along the road and shouting, "Give me money, give me money, give me money."
okay.
Or when Jan, the German cyclist, and I went into a local as a coffee shop, it was a small restaurant in a small village. And of course, everybody was watching us because the two European cyclists just arrived. And we just entered the restaurant because we wanted to eat something. And a completely random guy just followed us. He kind of joined us,
Mhm.
and he didn't speak English. In Rwanda, they don't speak so well English, by the way. And he just sat down at our table, and he expected us to treat him. So he
Oh,
really just was waiting for that he would get some food that
uh-huh.
we would pay for, and the owner has to throw him out, just leave, as a
Okay.
go. Uh, and Yeah, such things happen to me also in Kigali, in the capital of Rwanda. I had a couch surfing host. Yeah, the guy was actually a very nice person, but yeah, we didn't have a great time there because so the guy left for work,
Mhm.
and his brother and so some of his friends and his brother were staying at home. So there were a lot of people there in that compound. And I asked his brother, "Excuse me, do you know if there's a restaurant nearby? Because I'm pretty hungry. I would like to eat something." "Yeah, yeah, yeah." And he followed me. So he showed me the restaurant that was like a couple of meters, a couple of 100 meters away. And uh, he asked me, "Oh, can my friend join as well?" And I said, "Of course." Why couldn't he then? But I was suspecting that, okay, I think I know what they want. So we went
Okay.
to the restaurant. I ordered some food. They ordered the same thing. And when I got the bill, I saw that it was for three people, and I said, I'm paying for myself."
Yeah.
And two guys told me that they don't have money. They didn't have any money at all. And I was like, you know, I can treat you. I can pay for your food if we have that connection. If
Right.
Yeah, because if I like you, it's not
Right.
about
Right.
the money.
Sure.
But it was really like, okay, and I got mad and said, "But guys, do you always go to restaurant without money? And do you think that I will invite that I will treat you because I'm white?" Because this is what often happened in Africa. And sometimes I was like, you know, I really don't know what to say, what to do. They were very ashamed after this. They kind of apologized, and when we were walking back to the house, they were walking like this and just looking at the ground, and they were
Okay.
very silent. And I was like, "Okay, guys, I think it was a misunderstanding, but please don't do this," because it felt like that they were hosting me because they were hoping for getting treated. And it's like, no, 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 I'm not gonna do this. But
Yeah. Yeah.
at on other occasions when I had another host, and
Yeah.
we really had a nice connection, a nice conversation, and we went to a restaurant that I paid, and it was not about the money. It was about, yeah, that, yeah, of course, you treat me, I treat you, because we are friends. That's
Right.
it.
Right.
Um, so yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In
It's
that
I think
situation,
it's
it
a very
was,
complicated topic.
yeah, transactional, right? Just they were
And
there for the
the
food
thing is
alone,
that
right? Mainly.
yeah, the thing is that even if I pay their food, um, I don't solve their problem. It doesn't solve the problem, because I
Right.
can buy you a lunch, but you then again in a couple of hours later, you still cannot afford a dinner, and I'm
Right.
not there anymore. So it's and for example, in Zambia, oh my God, I still haven't forgotten that moment when I was cycling in Zambia. And there was a young guy, like, I don't know, 20, 25 years old. And when he saw me cycling, so I was passing his house, and he was running out as if I don't know, as if the house was on fire. He was in such a shock that, please give me money. I'm so hungry. I don't have food. Please, I'm so hungry. Give me money. And I was like, I must tell you very honestly, I still have very bad feelings about it. I could have given him a piece of bread, or I don't know. I still have such remorse because, but what can you do? Because so many people are doing it, and you cannot solve that problem. And somehow you must be selfish, but at the same time, I'm also a human. He's also a human, and I could have bought him a huge lunch.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know what's the best solution. Um, but so if you want to bike across Africa, you must be prepared for such encounters. I don't mean that don't think that it happens all the time, but sometimes it happens. It's very sad, but it's sad to me. So I found it very sad, but it's much worse for him, of course, because because he's the one living there, walking around hungry. And if I had children who are starving, I would also do anything to get some money or get some food. I see that white cyclist, of course he has money, so because he has come here from all the way from, I don't know, from his country, so he might be able to buy me something. Yeah, what can you do?
That's the thing. I mean, you try to give that kid some food, and then what happens? 100 other kids show up, and they want food too. And it's like, I'm sorry, I don't have food for everyone. You can't feed a nation as one person, or
And exactly. And so this is one thing. And the other thing is, so if they are just standing there, or so, yeah, following you and begging, and you just give them food or money, you just teach them that you don't need to do anything for money. You don't need to study. You don't need to work, because the white man is here and he will give you everything you need. So it's not the way it should be. It shouldn't work like that. So their government is responsible for these people. They should solve this problem. So because it's not sustainable. And sometimes when I really kind of had the possibility to have them, like that 8-year-old boy in Uganda. So I was fundraising for his wheelchair, but I cannot do it, I don't know, 10 times a day. And my journey is not about that either. I'm an unemployed cyclist, and so that's it. Yeah, but let's talk about a bit more positive things as well, because so it's crazy poverty in Africa, but at the same time, also nature is really amazing, really beautiful. And if you ask me what the most beautiful country in Africa was so far, then I say Malawi. Malawi was really nice. Originally, I didn't want to go to Malawi because it's a detour, but I'm very glad I went there. This is my recommendation, a highly recommended place, Mushroom Farm. Mushroom Farm is an eco lodge. It's up on a hill, like 700 meters above Lake Malawi, and from there you have the most beautiful scenery, the most beautiful view over Lake Malawi, and you can see the sunrise. And you just Google it, like Mushroom Farm, Malawi, and you just cannot believe your eyes. It's so beautiful. The road, so because it's a 700 meters of elevation, the road is extremely bad, very winding, extremely steep, and it's very rocky. So I left my bicycle at a campsite down. So by the lake, there's another campsite. I left my stuff there. So I just grabbed my camping gear, so my tent, my sleeping bag, and I paid a local guy, I don't know, like $3-4, so to drive me up to Mushroom Farm, and I stayed maybe three or 4 nights there, and it is really amazing, really beautiful. So it's a must. If you go to Malawi, if you go to Africa, you must go to Mushroom Farm. It's really beautiful. And then I kept on cycling to the south, and I it was also pretty remote. Actually, those countries are not so remote. So I think that I have talked too much about the remote areas but like most places in Tanzania, Rwanda, Uganda, Kenya are very populated. So there's always a village somewhere. You always find food and water.
Okay.
In Malawi, it was also pretty similar. But I remember that once I had a very tough day. I biked 70 kilometers only. But it was so hilly. So I think that I pushed the bike more than I rode it that day. It was so crazy. It was so hilly and steep, and it was already that it was a rest house, a guest house in the middle of nowhere, and it wasn't actually so obvious that that's a place where you can stay. So I just went there, and yeah, I stayed there for the night, and I remember it was full moon, and the full moon was shining above the forest and above the roof, and it was so remote, and there was no civilization. It was these moments are really unforgettable, and especially the full moon is a very special thing to me because I still remember, I still can recall um, every occasion when I saw the full moon during my journey. So, oh, I remember when I saw the first full moon in East Germany. The second one was the only one that I wasn't able to see because it was so bad weather. Then I saw the full moon in Croatia, then in Greece, and so on and so on. And it's a wild romantic, you know. So Malawi, so entire Africa is very wild romantic, but Malawi was even more. So it was a top, a very wild romantic, really exciting journey. Then I went to Zambia, bit lower elevations.
Okay.
So it was hotter and more humid. So let's say when I arrived there in the end of May, yes, so it's when the it's when the cold season. So yeah, the winter. So the cool season is starting. So when they have like 25, 30 degrees, it's very cold. It was so funny to see those people, a lot of people walking around in winter jackets. And I was like, oh my God, in Sweden, this is a beautiful summer day. So yeah, this is the difference between our countries. Then I arrived in Lusaka. Lusaka is the capital of Zambia. It was such a crazy experience to drink cappuccino again.
Oh yeah.
After I don't know 2 months.
Big city, right?
And I was, oh
big
yes, I will have a
lifestyle.
cappuccino. Yeah. So this is or to have dark chocolate. Sometimes I'm really craving these things, and I'm so happy when I see it. But you know, I'm used to eating the African food. Yeah, I'm in Africa, so I prefer eating local food, of course. So they have this. They eat a lot of rice and they call it ugali in Tanzania, and shima. What's it called? You know, this corn. It's kind
So yeah, tell us about the food, ugali and corn, some corn dish that you were talking about.
Exactly. So the food, so my impression of Africa, so African food, it's you cannot, so that's for food in these countries, in the countries that I have visited. It's not so diverse. So people, there are a lot of people who actually cannot even afford to buy rice or ugali because they are so poor. So so my impression is that to a lot of people, this cooking culture doesn't really exist at all. How do you prepare it? And in it's kind of an industry in a lot of countries that that there's a professional cook who can make it in so many different ways. But here, food is like, okay, that's what we eat, and yeah, that's what we have. They don't talk so much about food. They just eat it if they can, if they have access to food. So that was my impression. Yes, it still gives a lot of energy, actually. So it's very good for cycling. This ugali is a corn thing, and also rice. Exactly. So yeah, I was talking about Zambia. So after Lusaka, I was cycling from Lusaka to Livingstone, and Livingstone is a small town where you can visit Victoria Falls. Victoria Falls are located between Zambia and Zimbabwe. I only visited the Zambian side. Yeah, and it was actually the first time when cycling kind of was easy, because I had a lot of tailwind, and the road was mostly flat. So it was a change. Then I arrived. Oh my God, I'm very sorry to say so, but uh, the most boring country on earth, Botswana. So it's a very bad country for cycling.
Really?
It's a very bad country for cycling because there are really huge distances. So really, every day you must make like 100 kilometers. Sometimes, so it's a very, very sparsely populated country. So sometimes there are 200, 250 kilometers between two very small supermarkets. So you have to stock up on food and water. But at the same time, Botswana is also actually a big game reserve. So there's a lion alert. A lot of times it was like, haha, I might spot some dangerous animals today, but I didn't see anything. So anything dangerous. I remember it was a night. It was like in the beginning, like the third day in Botswana, maybe. So while I was cycling from Zambia to the south through Botswana, there were some abandoned cottages. I think that it used to be like a lodge or something like that, a hotel along the road in the middle of the nowhere, in the middle of the savannah. And I was lucky because so I found a cottage that had a door that I was able to lock with a metal wire, and I slept inside. And at night, so there were lions and hyenas roaming around outside. So that's where I slept. It was really exciting. It is a fantastic experience. Yeah, I had enough food and water with me, so the next day I just kept on cycling. Then I had a lot of tailwind, and Botswana is completely flat, so really like a pancake. A really flat country. So it's both hard for cycling because of the very big distances, and also easy if you cycle from the east to the west, and it's also flat, as said. Yeah, but I don't want to go back because it is pretty boring. So I'm pretty uneventful. And now I'm in Namibia. Today is Thursday. So I crossed the border the day before yesterday from Botswana. It's so here there's a bit more civilization, but as far as I know, Namibia is the second sparsest populated country in the world. The first one is Mongolia, and then Namibia. So there are big distances here as well, but in 200 kilometers, I will reach Windhoek, that is the capital city. Yeah, so kind of, I don't know. I'm actually very happy that we are having this conversation right here in Namibia, because I really need some human interactions. It's much,
You're on your own.
It's much harder to it's much harder to meet people here in this part of the world. Originally, I didn't want to come to Namibia because I was fed up with the desert and with the big distances in Saudi Arabia. And I was like, oh, no, I'm just going to South Africa directly from Botswana. But no, I changed my mind and I decided coming here. I didn't regret it, of course. I'm very happy for being here. And it's also, the architecture is completely different here, and the people also look completely differently.
Yeah.
And because Bushman people are living here, they also have different features.
Uh-huh.
So it's very interesting to see that you're living these countries, as you're cycling across the countries, and these people look differently. And here, for example, I see more taller people.
Okay.
In East Africa, people were not so tall. I'm pretty tall. I'm 193
Sure.
centimeters tall. And also in Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania, Malawi, Zambia, you very, very seldom see overweight people. No, so also
Sure.
really, so almost never. And you just look at those people, like for example, the men.
Yeah.
Many men are so extremely muscular, so really they have this natural gym, because a lot of people do very hard physical labor, so I guess that's why they are so muscular and so strong.
Sure.
Many of them, as many strong and muscular people, for example, in Europe as in this part of Africa. I guess that's the reason. I don't know, that's my guess.
Sure.
But for example, in Botswana and Namibia, you can see people who look differently. Here there are a bit more overweight people. I don't know what there is. I guess it's also access to food, or I don't know what. So I think that access to food is not as much of a problem here as in Uganda, for example.
Yeah, Botswana, from
So
what
this
I
is how
know,
I
is
see it.
pretty economically developed compared to, I mean, people are better off economically, right, in Botswana than in Uganda, for example,
Yeah,
right?
that's right. That's what I've heard as well. Yeah, and you can also see it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but exactly. So now I'm going to Windhoek, and from there, so still to the west, and then from there I will keep on cycling to the south to Cape Town. So South
Okay.
Africa, and yeah, a lot of people have. I met a lot of South African people in Botswana who are
Okay.
there on vacation,
Uh-huh.
and even they warn for their country. So yeah, South Africa. Yeah, actually, I think that South Africa is the first country where I really should consider safety, these warnings,
Yeah.
because nothing bad. So I don't mean that something necessarily will happen, but uh, I'm pretty glad that I'm sticking to the west coast. Everybody told me that that's the safest part of the country to
Okay.
enter South Africa from Namibia, and then
Okay.
cycling to Cape Town. It would be fine. And eastern part is not always that safe. That's what they say.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
but I know a lot of people who have been here, and yeah, nothing ever happened to them, or and after South Africa, I actually wanted to go to South America and bike
Okay.
from Argentina to the north, but it's still very early, because I would like to start in Ushuaia. It's the
Okay.
southernmost city in the world,
Sure.
but
Sure.
now it's July, so it's kind of winter. So you should go there earliest in the end of November because of the
Okay.
weather. So that's
Sure.
why I changed my route.
Okay.
So I would like to fly to Uzbekistan in
Okay.
the end of August, beginning of September,
Mm-hmm.
and do the Pamir Highway in
Okay.
Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan.
All right.
Um, and, and people told me that, I know people. I'm checking to a very nice German cyclist
Mm-hmm.
who is in South Africa now, and she and her boyfriend biked on the Pamir Highway. I don't know, last year I think, and they
Okay.
said, "Oh, if you have biked across Africa, you can bike anywhere, so you will make it. So Pamir Highway won't be a problem for you." And I don't know. I don't know. I'm thinking the other way around, because I'm actually a bit concerned. I'm a bit kind of nervous because of
Okay.
Pamir Highway, because it will be pretty cold, and also the highest point is 4,655 meters. So it's a very high elevation. And 2 years ago, in 2022, I was in Nepal. I was trekking to Mount Everest base camp, and I got altitude sickness, and it was terrible.
Wow.
I think that was the worst thing that has happened to me in my life.
Wow.
Altitude sickness is not a joke. It's really not a joke.
Yeah.
But I've also heard, if you've already been to these altitudes, the second time should be better. It should be easier because your body is a bit more used to it. I hope so. So yeah, so I hope that I will complete the Pamir Highway in September.
Okay.
And in the beginning of the conversation, I mentioned China, that was completely
Oh,
closed in the
sure.
beginning of my journey.
Mhm.
And as a Hungarian citizen, I don't need a visa anymore for China. So I
Oh,
want
nice.
to enter China from Kyrgyzstan, and from there I would like to go to Pakistan across Karakoram Highway, but it's also a very high elevation, like 4 or 5,000 meters maybe. It's the highest located border crossing in the world between China and Pakistan.
Yeah, the
And
border
from there I want
crossing
to roll down to
there's
Pakistan.
that border crossing is 4,600 meters high. Yeah.
Oh,
I was
that's
there. Yeah, I was there last
it's,
summer, but in the Pakistan side of that highway. But you shouldn't have a problem, I think, in the Karakoram Highway, except for that pass. It goes up to 4,600, and then it goes down to like 3,200 or so, like 3,000, 2,800 most of the time. So it's not like the Pamir Highway.
exactly.
Also, I would think, being on a bicycle, like I've done some hiking in Ecuador and like 4,900 meters, almost 5,000. And I got really, sick for a day after that. But I think being on a bicycle, it's more helpful because you can acclimate a lot better. You're moving more slowly, you camp along the way, right? So if you're starting from sea level and going up, slowly to 4,000 meters, then it might not be as bad for you.
Exactly. That's actually what Anne, this
Yeah.
German cyclist, told me, that uh, have short days on Pamir Highway. Don't bike too much, too long distances, and then you have much better chances uh, to get accustomed to this altitude, and then it should be fine. Yeah, and I guess that so when you just go up to these very high peaks, to this, mountain passes, it's not a very long distance. So you just go up and then you roll down. So most of
That's
the
right.
time you
Yeah.
are not on those very crazy altitudes. So yeah, I guess it's like that. And yeah, it will be cold, but at the same time, I really don't want to go to Pakistan in, I don't know, in August or September. So I
No.
think that it's just crazily hot. It also
Yeah.
depends
Yeah.
where in Pakistan you are, of course.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but at Lahore, uh, and right now in July, no. So maybe in
Yeah. Yeah.
November, when I will have birthday. I hope that I will celebrate my birthday the 6th of November, somewhere in Pakistan, with beautiful mountains in the background. I cannot imagine it. It's like, I remember it was the same thing last year. No, how was it? 2 years ago, I celebrated my birthday with my friend in Poznań in Poland, and I told him, "Can
Okay.
you imagine? In 1 year, I think I will be somewhere in Iran next November, and I just cannot imagine that that I will celebrate my next birthday in Iran. I cannot imagine it. It's impossible." And I actually celebrated it in Shiraz,
Oh, nice.
and that was the best birthday in my life. Oh my God! I met so amazing, helpful, hospitable people. I had an unforgettable birthday. I loved it. So let's see what Pakistan brings this year,
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah. For the
And
Karakoram Highway, though, I think the road actually it's only open until October because of snow. and that area. So you might want to
Oh,
double check. Yeah, the Karakoram Highway.
I think that they closed the road on the 1st of December. That's what
Oh, is it December? Okay.
that's what a
Oh,
Pakistani
okay.
person told me.
Oh, okay.
That
Okay. Yeah.
November still should be fine.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And then I would like to spend the winter months, so December, January, February in India.
Okay.
And then I'm going to Southeast Asia. And in 1 year, so next June, July, something like that, I will arrive in Australia. Yeah, and then my plan is to continue to Latin America, and then I would like to fly back to Europe and go home.
Wow. Wow. So that's going to be another
So
couple years ahead of you on the road, huh?
yeah,
Maybe
I think like
2 years, maybe 3 years.
2.5 years, 2.5 years, something like that. So far I have been cycling for 1 year, 4 months.
Okay.
And I always say that I think that I'm gonna be cycling for 4 years in total. So the
Wow.
entire journey will
Sure.
take about 40.
Okay. Okay. And how are you feeling like mentally? I mean, because mentally it can be exhausting sometimes, right? So I mean, how are you? You still feel like you have a lot more cycling in you, obviously, right? Since you have these plans.
You know, I always say that the easiest part of the journey is cycling. Riding a bicycle in most of the time, riding the bicycle in Malawi or in Namibia is just like riding the bicycle in Germany or anywhere in the world. You just sit on the bicycle and you pedal. It's very easy. It's very simple. Sometimes there are, I don't know, bad roads. So if you really choose to leave the tarmac road, the main road, and you go to those off roads, to gravel roads, then sometimes it's bad. But if you stick to the main road most of the time, I really cannot complain. Not even in Africa, really not. Uh, so the most challenging part is not the cycling. The most challenging part to me is when I'm cycling across a very remote area for a very long time. It's like now, so maybe the last week in Zambia and then entire Botswana and now Namibia. It's like I would like to see, yeah, more people, more towns, more. So because that's why I came here. I want to talk to the people. I want to get to know them. I don't know. I want to have a dinner with them. I just want to have some social experience. So when I'm lonely for way too long, it's really challenging. It's very bad. So mentally, I don't know, but at the same time, so I think that everybody has up and downs, mental up and downs, even at home. So I also had my bad times and good times and bad times in Sweden, in Hungary, anywhere. So here, if I have a bad day or a bad week or anything like that, I have it for a different reason, of course, because it's like, oh my God, I really want to eat some proper food, but the next restaurant is 150 kilometers from here. So that's it. And I am like, okay, but then it's 150 and I will have it tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. It's like, yeah, you just accept that this is also part of the journey. And that it is my choice to be here. And yeah, so I know that it sounds very crazy that I have biked from not all the way from Sweden to. I haven't biked all the way from Sweden to Botswana because I used the ferry, I used the airplane between Saudi Arabia and Kenya. But still, that's almost 20,000 kilometers. It's definitely doable. If you have enough time and if you're patient, you're sitting in a saddle and you just pedal. You just bike. And if there's a steep uphill, sometimes I just push the bike. It's like it's better for the knees, it's better for the chain. I'm not in a hurry. And this is also this is also a great advantage with this journey. I'm never stressed, I never have an appointment. I don't need to catch the bus, I don't need to catch the train or the ship or anything. I always just try reaching a a place where I will stay for the night before sunset, and I always make it actually. So it's a completely different lifestyle. And if any of you guys who are listening to this podcast now want to do something like that, so if you want to bike to China, if you want to bike around the world, I can tell you, I'm not stronger than you, I'm not better than you. I just believe in myself. I just have the confidence that I can do it, that I will make it. And I think that I'm the living proof that it's definitely doable, because I'm not an Iron Man, I'm not Superman. Everything you need for this cycling journey is a sturdy bicycle. It's the most important part of the journey. It's a very good bicycle. This Surly long haul trucker is my favorite brand. It's the really best bicycle in the world. I haven't had so many issues with it. Actually, I bought it in 2018 already, and today it happened today for the first time after almost 6 years that a spoke broke.
Oh, wow.
Today I had a broken spoke. Today,
Wow.
this day.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I still can keep on cycling 200 kilometers to Windhoek, and they will fix it for me. Yeah, you see, so I have been cycling, I don't know how many 10,000s of kilometers, and I'm still not confident enough to fix the spoke. But yeah, somebody else can do it for you. As the most important thing is that you just decide to ride that bicycle, and you can do it. And you, George, you have biked across Ethiopia, so so if you survive that, you have all my respect, because I know that Ethiopia is a very tough and challenging country for cyclists.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Ethiopia was eye-opening experience for sure, but well worth it, and learning experience like you know, I've learned a lot from that, and something I think about every day. And it's nice just to, you know, when you are on the bike, like you said, you appreciate things like a real meal that you'll see in 150 kilometers, right? You appreciate these small things more, I think, in your everyday life, you know, sitting down to a nice home cooked
exactly,
meal.
and exactly so. And when you're cycling, these very basic human needs become so essential, because when you're so while I was living in Hungary or in Sweden, so I never had to think about, okay, what am I going to eat, or if will I be able to sleep in a, I don't know, in a warm bed tonight, or do I have enough water for the day? Can I eat enough food in order to be able to keep on cycling, I don't know, 70, 80, 100 kilometers today? So these very basic human needs
Yeah.
get are getting much more obvious in this context. And also that the world is actually not as crazy as you would think, but this is also, how should I say it, I have been hosted and by a lot of people. I've gotten so much help during my journey from so many people, but at the same time, I think that it would be selfish to say that, oh, everybody is so fantastic, the world is a wonderful place, because just because people have helped me, just because people have given me accommodation and food and so on and so on. But at the same time, you don't know what those people have done to other people. Maybe I was hosted by, I actually know about a host. I don't want to tell you so many details about it, because it was a very horrible story. He was very kind to me. He invited me from the street. I stayed at his place for like 2 nights, I think. He cooked for me. We had a really great conversation. Then he turned out to be a not so good person, because he told me very honestly what kind of things he had done in the past. So it was you're talking to somebody, or spending like 1-2 days, 1 week, or I don't know how many days with somebody, and so I don't know who you are, George. You don't know who I am. So we are friends, but this is only one thing. I think that the world is a much more complex place. It's like, for example, I don't want to. So now again, I'm just gonna tell you something that I have heard from other people. This is nothing
Sure.
I have made up.
Yeah, sure.
When I was in Kenya or in Uganda, and I told the people, I recently arrived from Saudi Arabia, and people were so extremely hospitable and helpful to me. So I really loved Saudi Arabia, because it's the last country in the world where you have to worry about if you have enough water in the desert, because the cars just stop and they give you water and food and everything. And they told me that, but you're not everybody, but some people treat you in a completely different way for example, in some Gulf countries, if you are not white. A lot of African people told me completely different stories about these countries. And I also know about these things because, there are documentaries on this topic in Sweden, for example, that, if you're, for example, Asian or African, you have a completely different status. You have a position in, come on, let's say it as openly, everywhere in the world, there's racism exists, unfortunately.
Right.
And, sometimes I have a feeling that, that when people say that, I don't know which country, I don't want to name a country, but almost any country. They were very kind to me. They helped me and so on. But, keep in mind, I'm a white cyclist from Europe. What if I was, I don't know, I had a different skin color, and if I were a woman or anything like that, if I wasn't a traveler on a bicycle, but I don't know, the cleaning lady who is cleaning your house or whatever, I just set an example, that it might be a different story. So I think that, so I really don't want to be so ignorant and selfish to say that everybody is treating me with food and accommodation, and for this reason, this planet is a wonderful place, and everybody's wonderful. It's like, these rainbows and unicorns and hippies and I don't know, Woodstock. And no, the world is not like that, unfortunately. I hope so. I wish it was like that, but there are very weird things sometimes. For example, this racism. Oh, I really must tell you this thing, because I just didn't want to believe my ears when I heard this. It was in Tanzania. I stayed at a guest house. The owner was a really nice guy. We had a great conversation. And he asked me, because I told him that I had biked across those national parks with the dangerous wild animals. And he asked me that, but you don't need to worry if you meet a lion, if you encounter a lion, because lions don't attack white people. Is it true that lions don't attack white people, only black? And I was like, what? No, that's not true. I'm just that, there is one animal in the world that sees the difference between white and black, and that animal is called a human. So only the human differs between the skin colors. I will not hurt him because he's white, and I will. And I told him, no. And it's like when you hear something like that, so I really just try to understand that person. So why is he thinking like that? Why? It's kind of, to me, it's like a racism against yourself, or it's just like a really stupid prejudice, or I don't know. But at the same time, I think that it's not only Africa. So even in Europe, you can find people who believe that the earth is flat. So there are people, so there are ignorant people, or there are people who have very strange and stupid ideas everywhere. But this thing was just so straight into my face, and it was so unbelievable.
Wow.
But he didn't necessarily say this thing because he was African, because as said, a Swede could have told me an equally stupid.
Sure.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So
I
there are
wonder where
people
he,
who,
I
yeah,
wonder where he,
believe that the earth is flat, or there are people who,
yeah, I wonder where he got that idea from, huh? He didn't say anything else.
I don't know. So I think that there are, people. I ask them. So sometimes I really ask these people that, I want to understand your culture, a way of thinking.
Okay.
Why do you have these very different ideas on white people? Because in Europe, so let's say so. Okay, I'm just generalizing now, but a
Sure.
lot of people who have prejudices against non-white people are kind of just racists who say that black people don't want to work and all this ignorant stuff. But when, for example, some African people have kind of prejudices against white people, it's no racism, it's just kind of disinformation. And it's also this, sometimes, this is my very subjective opinion, it's kind of a racism against yourself, that, oh, the white are much more better, they are smarter. And people told me, yeah, we think that, white people are just smarter than Africans because they have those fantastic inventions and modern technology and so on. I say, yeah, modern technology, but yeah, I don't know. So I was like, that a lot of Europeans actually just exploited Africa and took a lot of money and diamonds and slaves from Africa. So no wonder that they can afford these fantastic inventions. And at the same time, trust me, just watch Jerry Springer's show and you will see that all the white people are not so smart.
Right.
Just,
Good to show them that.
no.
Look
I
at this
I
show.
guarantee that IQ and all these things have nothing to do with your skin color or which country you are from. So, but as said, so it has nothing to do with this. And one more thing. I am learning these things about African people and also about myself, about my own culture, because I'm traveling around the world. How should I put it? I think that you learn these things and you become kind of a more open-minded and smarter person if you already from the beginning have this attitude. So there's a really good saying, you don't see the world the way it is, you see the world the way you are.
Sure.
So I know people who have lived in a lot of different countries, who speak like 5 languages. And I actually have a friend who is from such a family, and they are very proud of it. But for example, he said that, for example, if he adopted an African child, his parents would never accept it. It's like, no, black. It's like,
Wow.
So just because you have seen so much of the world, because you have a university degree and you speak so many languages, it doesn't automatically mean that you are open-minded and accepting.
Right.
And another example, for example, my family. I am the very first person in my family who is living abroad, and my grandparents have lived their entire lives in Hungary, and they have never used foreign languages so much.
Okay.
Yeah, my parents have gone on vacation in Europe in to different countries, of course, but and they are very open-minded, very modern, very accepting people. And in my family, it's always been a zero tolerance against racism or anything like that. So it's also kind of your personality, how you treat other people. For example, my maternal grandparents, who were very simple peasants, farmers in the Hungarian countryside, and they just lived their entire lives in that small village where so 500 people are living there, or even fewer maybe. And when they were alive, I never heard talking them negatively or judging about other people, because they had this, how should I say, they had this religious Christian way of thinking. Don't judge other people so that don't be judged yourself. And they use their religion in a good way. So to me, when we discuss religions, for example, so to me, this is the real religious thinking. When you use your religion in the correct way,
Sure.
don't hate him just because he's black. Don't hate him just because he's whatever. And it's also why, because they had this education, they had this way of thinking and this personality. So it's not black and white. So you really can meet good-hearted people who really don't want to anybody, who really don't want to judge you, even though they don't have a university degree and even though they haven't lived in 6 different countries, and the other way around. So it's a very complex thing.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, everybody's got their own, moral code too, whether it's, if you live in the same town your whole life and just go to the church down the street. I mean, maybe the pastor is somebody that you can learn from, or maybe the teachers at your school or your family members give you a certain education that you wouldn't even get if you're, living in different countries around the world and your parents are gone and working all the time. It's all individualized and it can be so different, right?
Yeah, it depends on a lot of things, of course. Yeah, and as said, so I really hope that I would like to show this podcast for all those friends and hosts whom I have met the past 1 year and 4 months, and I really hope I didn't say anything that could be misunderstood. So I think that stupid people and bad people are good people and bad people are everywhere, and racism is everywhere, and there are also people who respect you regardless your skin color or your gender or anything, everywhere.
So, and people are complicated too, right? I mean, there's some people, they might have made mistakes in the past, but maybe they feel remorse for that, and they've been
exactly that's the thing. I had a great host in Zambia, and she's a very very honest and very open-minded woman. I liked her very much because he openly so she wrote a book about sexual harassment in Zambia. And I guess it's not only, of course, it's not only in Zambia, also in other countries, but she just described her own experiences. And we had this conversation in this context that regretting things and remorse, that how you can handle such a trauma and when somebody has been so cruel to you. And I completely agree. So if somebody really apologizes and tries to make you feel better after everything that has happened, then that it's also easier for everybody to just get over the old problems. And just start a new life, because so everybody has done stupid things, but there are also people who has done really bad things. So I don't know, but I've had this conversation with people, with religious people, not religious people, or they are different people. If everybody is a good person, I don't know. I don't think that everybody is a good person. There are a lot of good people. I think that most people are really good-hearted, but there are people who are not. You don't know. I'm a skeptic. I'm a very skeptical person.
Yeah,
it's like and that's why. And what has taught me this? Not only this cycling journey. I really love reading, and on this, I have studied German language and literature, so I have my entire life read a lot of books. And also on this journey, I have read a lot of novels on my phone. So I just download ebooks, or I just buy a physical book if I can. And while you're reading a novel, let's say, a classical novel. My favorites are definitely the Russian classics like Tolstoy, Dostoevsky, but the last novel that I read was is a tetralogy of Wilhelm Muber. He was a Swedish writer who wrote a 1,400 page long books. So these are 4 books about Swedish immigrants in the US in the 19th century. And so what I want to say is that while you are reading a book, you just understand. If you want to understand the culture or people or history, you need time. You must sit down, you must take your time, and it might take months or years or decades. Yeah. And you must read 10,000s of pages until you can be sure that, okay, I think that I have understood this, that I can think with the head of those people who used to live 200 years ago and left Sweden for the US or anything. It's just an example. So this is it's also the same thing with this cycling journey that yeah, so I can tell you that, yeah, those people were friendly, those people were nice, but yeah, it's much more complex, and that's why I love staying with local people, and I want to hear their stories, first-hand information, because then I think that I'm coming a bit closer to the truth.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's I totally agree with you. I mean, I've been in Korea for 15 years and speak the language, and my girlfriend is Korean, but there's still like so much that I don't know about Korea. Like this summer, for example, I could go cycle somewhere in Africa or I don't know, in the Middle East or wherever, right? But I'm like, okay, there's still so much that I don't know about Korea, and it's a small country. So I'm like, okay, I really want to take a month and spend some time in Korea and just discover new things about this place, even at a deeper level, right? I mean, I could spend 30 more years there and feel like it's still a big mystery to me. That's how,
and I think that
and keep going deeper and deeper too, right?
Yeah, and I guess that, sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that that I agree that like cultures like Korea, South Korea must be so different. I haven't been to South Korea. I have been to Japan. It was also, a country that, yeah, you need a lifetime to learn about that culture.
Yeah,
it's so different, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, even being in Saudi Arabia for 5 weeks, I felt like, hey, I learned quite a bit more than I did 5 weeks before, right? But at the same time, it's like I feel like I could spend 20 years there and not even scratch the surface, really. Just so much going on.
And speaking of Saudi Arabia again, so yeah, I think that we kind of had a conversation on this topic in Jeddah. That even though I'm not a very religious person, I think that I really appreciated the. So how should I say it? I'm very grateful that I met all those people, especially in Saudi Arabia, because a lot of people are very religious there, and their religion and their behavior taught me a lot of things, like self-control. It is something that I don't know, that is much more obvious in such a religious culture. Sure. When we talked about, for example, marriage or loving relationship, like intimate relationships. And I've also been cycling for 1 year and 4 months, and most of the time I'm completely alone. So so how should I say it? Yeah, every night I sleep alone in my bed. So that's what I mean.
Right. Yeah, sure.
And trust me that when I was in those countries, especially in Saudi Arabia, it helped me so much because I saw because in Europe and in a lot of countries, so many things are so sexualized, and it's
Right.
so much talk about it. And so, yeah, I find it very good that we talk about sexual education openly and all these things. I can talk about this stuff very openly,
Yeah.
but I mean, at the same time, uh, when you don't have access
Yeah.
to this thing, and you end up in a culture like, Saudi Arabia, you just realize that there are so many other things in life,
Oh
and
yeah,
that
sure.
those people also realize, appreciate those things. And when I remember we had that conversation about physical appearance, that it's not so, it's kind of a taboo to judge a person by his or her appearance.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you really don't need to show everything of your body and
Right.
all the time. And you sometimes, and you just cover some body parts. Sometimes you don't need to do it so strictly.
Right.
It's not necessarily a bad thing. It kind of it I think it teaches you discipline and self-control. It's good for your mental health.
Yeah, yeah. In the West,
um
definitely. I mean, it's kind of thrown at you in the media. You see movies, TV, YouTube, even people here, I'm sure in Europe even more, they talk, openly about that. And there's pressure like, oh, you went on a date with this person, so what happened? So what did you do after? And there's like some
exactly
pressure, right? And it's
exactly you
like,
have
why didn't
exactly
you
the
do that
pressure.
yet? Right? When's it gonna
Exactly. And
happen?
it's like, yeah, what uh, it's a central topic. And it's also, I find it's good. At the same time, I find it good that we have had this sexual revolution in the Western world, of course, but it's also, yeah, I don't know when. So feel free to do whatever you want, but I really don't appreciate this. This people walking around in this, this leather stuff, and I'm so proud of this, showing of everything. And you feel free to do it if you want to. I don't know. I don't want to see it because it's so, because it kind of, um, it's making fun of the seriosity of this intimacy, of this intimate relationship. Somehow, sex is losing the intimate part, and
Sure.
because we are making fun of it so much, we are making jokes about it, the way it's, and somehow I had this very intimate conversations, not only about sex, about life, about job, about many things, where people really listen to me in these bit more conservative countries,
Hmm. Hmm.
um, where everything is not allowed. And of course, it has pros and cons. It has
Sure.
advantages and disadvantages. But I'm also, how should I put it? It's so easy to misunderstand what I'm saying now. But now I'm 38 years old, that I'm also becoming a bit more conservative. But conservative, the word conservative doesn't necessarily mean old-fashioned. It
Sure.
doesn't mean that I'm narrow-minded and stupid, and I don't know,
Right.
I judge everybody who doesn't think like me. It's not necessarily the same thing. Conservative, it's like, it means that to just let's conservate, just let's keep things the
Mhm.
way they used to be before, of certain things, not everything, but
Mhm.
certain things, because just because something is new,
Mhm.
it's so, yeah. So
Yeah, there's something to be
um
said about, the Quran, for example, or the teachings of Buddha that have been around for thousands of years, right? And still right now, people are studying, scientists are just catching up with these spiritual teachings, right? Like meditation, for example, it
yeah,
was taboo to do psychological research about that even 20, 30 years ago. And now it's like the big thing. Wow, it's, everybody's meditating. It's like the cool thing to do, right? But that's been around for 3,000 years. And it's teaching
Exactly.
restraint. It's teaching you to, focus and not to succumb to your desires and and for whether it's eating, whether
So,
it's
yeah.
sex, whether it's, just your temptations, basically, right?
So, yeah, exactly. So these things are still here for a reason. So we
Yeah.
still need them somehow. And for example, like so I just finished this Swedish this 4 Swedish books, and sometimes it was really hard to read the very religious chapters of the book, because this very simple Swedish farmers 200 years ago, 100 and something years ago, were very religious. And yeah, they said, yeah, so you mustn't do it because it's forbidden by the Bible. But um, if you look at this from a different perspective, so look at our laws, so how the world is functioning. So it's kind of, our laws are written according to the Bible. You shall not steal. You shall not cheat on your wife. Okay, it means that you should have one partner. So it's still illegal to have 2 wives or more than one wife in Europe, for example. So in our culture. So I just mean that these very old things still have a message. We just use them kind of in a different way, but it's still there. So that's why I sometimes say that Europe or Sweden or Hungary, they are definitely Christian countries, because basic idea, the basic philosophy is from the Bible, and we still think like that respect the other person and help the hungry people. And wherever you are in the world, that's what I experienced, that we actually have the same needs. And that's why the religions or all the philosophies teach us the same thing, that if somebody is hungry, give him food, because we are humans and we need food, and we want to have a job, and we want to rest in the end of the day, and we need love, and we need friends. So yeah, so in the end of the day, I think that people everywhere in the world are pretty similar in a very good way. So we are a big family.
Yeah, 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 great. Great. Okay. Well, I think we've been going for more than 2 hours here. So maybe
Oh, really? Okay.
is there something you would like to say? Maybe we can finish up to conclude something that you want our listeners to
Okay.
know.
Include. Oh my God. Yeah. So as said, I really hope that many of my friends, my family members, and everybody, so as many people as possible, will listen to this podcast. And uh, um, I just want to send my greetings to my very favorite hosts
Sure.
in Iran, in Jahrom. I like that guy so much. Oh my God, I don't remember his name. Okay, Mehdi was his name. Okay, one of my favorite hosts ever. Then in Greece, I also had really favorite hosts. Guys, I love you. I miss all of you. I hope that we will meet again. Um, in Uganda, in everywhere, in Lusaka, that guy, what was his name? Adrian. I like him too very much. He was such a great host, such a great guy. I have met so many people the past 1 year and 4 months. I just really just want to take the opportunity and say hi to everybody. It's impossible. Thank you for everything, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for this journey, because it's not, even though I believe in myself, sometimes it's not enough. So I'm very grateful for this possibility. I'm so happy to be here. And it's really crazy how far I have come from Sweden. It's really crazy. Yeah.
The world is big and small at the same time, right?
Yeah, the earth is big, the world is small. Yeah.
Cool, great. So how can people get a hold of you? I mean, how would you suggest they contact you if they're wondering something about cycling or your trip or want to ask you something?
Yeah, of course. I use social media, Instagram and Facebook. My Instagram username is Valentin without an E, so not Valentine, but Valentin underscore vagabond. You can write it in the description, maybe on YouTube if you upload
Sure,
upload this podcast on YouTube. Yeah, Valentin Vagabond. I will also send it to you by email. And Valentin Vagabond is the name of my Facebook page as well. Yeah, feel free to contact me if you have any kind of questions. Yeah, I kind of feel a little bit weird. I speak as if we're a very important person, or I don't know. And if you have a dream, just go for it. And if I can be here, you can also be here.
That's right. Okay, well, thank you for joining us. I think that's a good place
Thank
to
you very much
finish
for the
up.
possibility. Thank you
All
very much for
right,
it.
sure.